Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Moods, Minds, and Manifestations podcast, featuring real people, real experiences, and real talk. And I'm your host, Moca. So let's get into it. So today I'm continuing my conversation with Michelle Rosas Stull. Last episode we spoke about the challenges of divorce, single parenting, and co-parenting. Today we'll touch on the challenges of parenting in today's society and culture. Part of my goal as a parent is to present different scenarios to my kids so that they can make more informed choices and decisions and simplify their lives. They don't always take it, unfortunately, but I'm never short of advice to make their life better. At some point in life, maybe they'll adopt it and maybe not. So
I really do believe it is equal parts, again, the words and the action. So it's equal parts, talking to them, but equal parts showing them, right? So it's equal. You can't just show and not talk and explain things, and you can't just say something without showing them. And there is always the thing, the quote where kids will do what you do, not do what you say. But I believe it's both. I believe they will do what you do and also do what you say.
Absolutely.
There's so many parts of that you have to back up. And there's also parts where you have to apologize and you have to show that. If you want your kids to be grateful, then you have to show gratitude to them. If you want them to be respectful, show that they have, their own respect. And, so yeah, there's a lot we can get on the topic of raising daughters specifically.
Yes. What would you say are struggles, if any, in raising a daughter in today's society?
To get into it, as far as from our political landscape and the rhetoric and those what's allowed and what my daughter hears now is so different. And I'll tell you a quick story more on the race and culture than the gender. But we moved to a different area, and she went to a new school. And so the first day this is last year, of her first day of school, just her dad and I are actually there to pick her up. And, how was your first day? You make friends, just, really excited to hear about it. And she's like, yeah, I made some friends, but the two kids next to me are Spanish. And she said it with such disgust.
Oh, boy.
And her word of she was just disgusted that these kids were Spanish. And I'm never at a loss for words. I feel like I can kind of pretty articulate what I'm feeling, but I will say that was probably one of the first times that I had no words. My mind was racing all over the place. I could honestly tear up thinking about it, because it's like a gut punch, kind of. Yeah, this you're talking about me. Like, you're talking about not only your mom, you're talking about yourself. Right? You're talking about yourself. You're talking about your mom. You're talking about
grandma and grandpa.
Yeah. So it's like, what do you mean, right? And I didn't have the words for her, and I will say, I think her dad saw my face and kind of knew that I was stunned, and he jumped in and just said, well, what do you mean? Do they not speak English? She's like, no, they speak English. They're just Spanish. And so I'm laughing, crying, because it's just the only thing I can attribute to it is the society in which we are living in currently. And it's sad and it's scary. How does a super proud Latina who speaks Spanish, who listens to the radio in Spanish, she grew up with all that, have a daughter who literally just said, she didn't like the fact that these kids were next to her were Spanish. Like, I don't even know how to reconcile that still. And I struggle because what did I do wrong? What parts was I supposed to do? What is she hearing? Where is she hearing she has a white dad who now is with a white woman with these other white kids? Is she feeling that she doesn't want to be half brown? And those are all struggles that I'm sure she's going through, and how do I help her through that? And so yeah, like, is she not around enough Hispanics? And
honestly, I don't think you should beat up on yourself in that regard, because like, I'm Jamaican, born and raised. My kids have never spoken ill of my countrymen, or, but it's like, sometimes I remind them, that I'm Jamaican. Hey, you are half Jamaican. Not that they look at it in a negative way, but it's just, as much as you've taught other culture and things like that, it's just somewhere there's a disconnect. But it's not necessarily that you're doing something wrong. It's just, I find that with the kids, the young people of today, it's like there's a disconnect. It's like the whole life is about social media, and it's like little things, little nuggets in life that our generation, we still carry that from our parents and grandparents. It's like, I think this younger generation, there's a disconnect. So it's like, unless somebody spells it out like, hey, you're part Spanish, it's like, that's just how the mindset today is. And it's just, you just have to just keep doing what you're doing, speak Spanish to her, whatever it is that you do with your 50% of time with her. Trust me, it's there even when you think it's not. But also your hurt, the hurt that you felt in that moment and still feel, is something, not that you want to burden her, but she needs to know that it hurts you. Because as we said before, it's you, grandma and grandpa, everybody else in your family and friends and whatever part of that culture. It's a diss without her maybe necessarily knowing. But I think it's important for you to explain how that made you feel in that moment. And maybe she'll be mindful of things she says, and also hopefully embrace that part of your culture more,
Right. Like, sharing that story into the question you had, really, I do believe that there is this, she's seeing it. She's seeing the rhetoric. She's hearing it. She's, to her, that is what society says, and so she repeated it. I don't think it was something like she didn't hear it at home, obviously, right? Like, so I think being intentional about how we're raising our kids in this society now, where like I said, the political landscape allows for so much words to be said that are ugly, that are destructive.
I notice, of course, I keep abreast of what's going on in Florida because I still have a home there and family. And it's like, it's just extreme. A lot of book banning and just a lot of extreme things. And I used to say it's like a quote unquote Jerry Springer mentality. May he rest in peace, because he just passed away. But I see this shift that has taken place where it's commonplace for people to be just so acrimonious, and it's okay. And it's like, there's no shame, especially these public servants, these people in quote unquote power that were elected. It's like, there's like no shame. Certain things you would do on the down low or in, private, but it's almost like they make it their mission to be contentious. Like, they thrive on it. And it not just makes me sad, but I'm an empath. So it's like energy. It's just, if it's negative energy, it's like, it's really not good for me. I don't have, good days when I'm out and about in society. And so, but even just regular legitimate news sources, news agencies, it's like the headlines have vitriol in it. So-and-so got pulverized, or whatever the word is that they use, but it's just all around. And it's like, why is this the norm? I'm waiting for the pendulum to swing back the other way, because everything gets labeled political or woke or whatever, but it's just common sense and decency. That's all it is. It's either you're using your mind and being a decent person, or you're not. It has nothing to do with political parties,
Absolutely,
So
right. There's diplomacy that like a certain part of diplomacy that has gone away, and to that to that point, like that is the world that I'm raising a daughter in, and so she's seeing things and learning things and knowing things that, you know, I wasn't ready for or aware that, okay, I got to start talking to her about these things now, and I do, right? So it is what it is, whether I'm ready or not. It just those things that we do talk about, because she's seeing it, she's exposed to it in so many ways, and like I said, even from the standpoint of having a whole nother family, half the time that, you know, I don't know what is, you know, what she hears. I don't know what she knows, and it's concerning, right?
I guess at this point, the only thing you can do is trust your ex-husband. Say, for example, that issue with her and the Spanish kids, and he saw that it bothered her. I mean, obviously you do it in your home, but do you think he, you know, whenever possible, he can infuse a little bit? It's not his culture, but just to help her maintain it.
He's also contending with the fact that he's also dealing with like an instant family with two kids who also have a dad maybe has different viewpoints too, right? And now Lucy's involved in that. Lucy's going on vacations with these. It's not just friends. She's you know, being raised along with two other kids that may have completely different background from, not maybe even from their mom's side, but their dad's side.
Right.
And so there's a lot there. There's a big blending of thought and you know, values and culture and all of that she's probably hearing all aspects of things, and on top of the fact that they're in, you know, school and the kids are talking and saying things, and so there's a lot of information out there,
a lot of stimulus. But one thing I can say is, I mean, you know, from what I know of you, you're a wonderful person and a wonderful mom, and just keep doing that. I mean, if nothing else, and even if she doesn't display it necessarily, she's growing, just keep infusing her with, you know, your nuggets of love and caring and inspiration and all of that. And at the end of the day, it's like, you know, our kids are their own people. You know, in the end, they're going to choose to be who they choose to be. But all you can do is just, you know, teach them well, love them. Don't beat yourself up, because at the end of the day, they're going to do what they're going to do, and they're going to live how they're going to live. So, you know, and conversation, dialogue is important, I feel. So.
Yeah. What's important for me with her, because of the situation that we're in, so because and I can't even say we're in a blended family, because she's in a blended family, and that her being in that blended family impacts her and I so much. One of the things that I really had to learn, or what I really am intentional about, is teaching her discernment. So I really want her to understand what she's hearing, why is she feeling a certain way? Why is, why is that person saying what they're saying? Not just to repeat what she hears, because that's an easy thing to do. So just discernment is something that I think I'm very intentional about with her. Whenever she says something, whenever we talk, that conversation really goes back to that beginning part of, where are these feelings coming from? Where's this thought coming from? How do we get from point A to point B, and understand why you did that? So she learns to make those decisions for herself, because she's very much, you know, just due to the nature of how she lives. She's exposed to many different families, thoughts, you know, I mean,
and good and bad habits.
Absolutely, absolutely right.
Yeah.
We go back to even religion, you know, like if they believe, if they don't, different beliefs, different thought systems, and she's going to really need that discernment to figure out what it is where does she stand.
One main thing I have always taught my kids, it's like, one person's experience is not necessarily yours. And you can see it, you can agree with it or disagree with it, but their path is not necessarily your path. You might have similar things that you do, but your path is your path and their path is their path. So it doesn't mean, you know, that you have to be like everybody else and think the way everybody else does. That's something I've always instilled in my kids, and they were homeschooled, of course, but I tried my best to have them socialize and all of that. But I think, based on how I've lived my life, I'm a freelancer. I've also encouraged them to try to set themselves up in a way that they're not beholden to society. They have wonderful skills, but, they don't always take my advice. But in the end, I think you just kind of have to lead by example. And then in the end, they're just going to choose to do things in whatever mixture of whatever they learn from mom, whatever they learn from society, whatever they learn from dad, and, whatever they come up with themselves. So I just wanted to see how you handle that whole school safety thing these days and things like social media and peer pressure when it comes to your daughter.
Yeah, so the whole social media, she's not on any of your, like your Facebook and, TikToks or LinkedIn, that kind of thing.
She has a phone?
So she has a phone, and that came about, it's just one of those, like, I do believe it's just the double-edged sword of her needing, me being able to get in contact with her, or her dad being able to get in contact with her, also a way of, being able to just quickly look at where her phone is and track her and that kind of thing. And needing that as a device or method to communicate, but then knowing that that's a way that she's communicating with, so many kids. And the kids they're all sending messages to each other, and they know a lot. They do.
Way more than we did at their age.
Absolutely. I do check her messages. I do look through. I'm sure there's things that I don't see or that things that get deleted. We did go through a little bit of where I don't think the kids know yet how to communicate through text messaging. So I think there's a little bit of a learning curve there. And so that's something that I had to kind of work with her on, because she's a very direct, almost cold kind of person, especially in her communication, and text message, it just comes off very cold, and I don't think she means to be, but I think she actually can be the one who's hurtful to others, just because she's just very kind of one word or direct. And so kind of teaching her that etiquette of, texting etiquette and those kind of things that they're not ready for, like that, but it's a new form of communication that she's going to have to be. And then also, there's things that I saw kids write about that I'd have to ask, do you know what that means? And now I found myself explaining things that I wasn't ready to, but I'd rather her know.
Yes.
Than to repeat something or to be naive when somebody's saying something in these threads that these kids are writing back and forth on. And she might either think it's funny or not know why she thinks it's funny. I'd rather her understand it. So, yep, here I am explaining what Pornhub is.
Oh my gosh. At 10. She's 10.
Oh,
wow.
Things like that I definitely wasn't ready for or knew that I was going to have to, but I think it's the world we live in right now. And
it's interesting though, because like my kids, they're homeschooled, so I had, I guess, more control over, certain things. And they, when we moved overseas, they attended the regular school, local school. So at that point I felt, okay, they, it's not so much that I wanted them to, but they got phones. But I always used to tell them that, just because so-and-so is doing that doesn't mean that that's your path. I tried to really instill that in them, that you don't need to do everything everybody else is doing. It's not going to necessarily enhance your life, and let them dabble here and there or whatever. But in the end, it's like, there's no written book or stone that says that you have to do things in society just because everybody else is doing it.
What's interesting with my daughter is that she actually inherently believes that. Like, there is this part of her that is, and I noticed that there's lots of things that she wants and she asks for, and I'm kind of like, I don't know if I really, like, I'm sure you've seen the pictures, and she colors her hair. And it's something that I just allow her to do. I struggled with it because I grew up where I wasn't even as much able allowed to even paint my nails till I was, and really probably even 18. So this is something that for me, is way off. It's not supposed to be this way, but understanding for her where it's coming from. And for her, she's truly an artist inside. She is very much artistic, and it's not following anybody. She's actually almost going against the grain a little bit, and she's not in a rebellious way.
It's just self-expression.
It is very much.
Yeah.
You can see that. If I had seen that she was doing it because so-and-so was doing it, because so-and-so thought it was cool or whatever, I think we would have talked about it. But this is very much who she is at her core. There's this very kind of flary, artistic person that I want her to flourish, and then I want to help her grow in that. And
I think it's great that you recognize that, she's this artistic soul, and coloring her hair and whatever else is a part of her expressing herself, because you want them to express themselves fully. Otherwise, we know what can happen if they don't, if they explode or rebel or whatever. So that's great. I think you're very in tune as a parent. So pat yourself on the back just from all the stuff. You help her express her words and express her emotions and all of that. A lot of parents don't do that. Nothing against them, but it's just life or circumstance or whatever.
Yeah, they're just
they're just on autopilot. So,
but you know what? I'll tell you, it's a very conscious behavior that I do, because when I tell you, sometimes, it's very often I actually bite my tongue, but the first thing that comes out of my mouth is something that I probably would have heard growing up, right? Like, if I see her doing something, sometimes I'm right away, if she's sitting at the table, maybe not sitting up straight, because I was raised, sit up straight at the table.
No elbows on the table.
No table, yeah, all that, right? Put your back up straight, and then I think about, well, why? Why was I? And it's just a different time. It doesn't suit her in any way now for me to be constantly on her about that. So there's things that sometimes right away my first thought is to be like, oh no, that's not acceptable. But then I have to think of why. And
right.
So it's a very conscious parenting. I feel like that I've been very, like I said, intentional of what I'm doing with her. And I will go back to saying that being a single mom allows me to be. It really does. It allows me to parent her, to be the mom I want to be in my own way without
interference to a certain extent.
Right.
Yeah.
And obviously there's things that him and I go back and forth on when it comes to, health and all those kind of things. We very much share those, but how, who I am on my end, who I'm raising, I do intentionally between her and I. And then she goes off and, like we talked about, goes and gets a different piece, and that's all. Just like you said, she's going to become all those pieces and figure out which one's best, or maybe become a blend of all of them. But I can do my part here, and we have that relationship. We have that, like you said, that communication, and we'll see. It's not easy.
Another thing too is no matter what the situation is, once you realize that you're going to survive it, like when I went through my divorce, I don't think there were very many moments when I had the time to feel sorry for myself, because I had 2 small children. So it was just go, take care of business. I think back and it's like, I remember how hard things were. You said you went to therapy. My therapy was just, okay, onwards and upwards. And that's my life because of how I was raised. I wasn't raised with my parents and always had to make do with what I have. And I think that's part of the reason why even now in my adult life, I like to upcycle things. I find it hard to spend money on, other than travel, like expensive things, like, material things, because it's like I see every object as, something you can recycle or upcycle. But my other thing was divorce. I also always try to look at the bright side, and I saw it as, okay, I was in this relationship, marriage or whatever, and it didn't work. Now I'm free again to pursue all these other things that I might not have been able to achieve or pursue while I was in that relationship. So whether it's, taking trips or whatever it is, or, being open to somebody more compatible, maybe you learned something you don't want in relationships. You try to look at the bright side. As dark as it is that this relationship didn't work and you feel in certain ways like you failed at something, but I've let go of that and look at the bright side and step into your own as a person. That's part of what it releases you from, so.
Living and thriving
and
kind of getting out of that mode of, I feel like a lot of times we're, especially like to your point of like how we were raised and the things that we had to go through, it was just kind of soldier on and march on and not really think about. So we were always in the survival mode, and there's something different about being in a thriving mode, in a part where you're
survive and thrive. Yeah. Add that thrive to it. So last thing before I let you go, how do you feel about the whole school safety thing? She goes to, is it private school or public school?
No, she goes to public school.
Okay.
I mean, the whole thing, it's scary. I don't know that our kids are safe anywhere.
I was about to say that. It can happen anywhere. But it's just the thought that at school, it's just, yeah.
At school, the actual, like, school shootings, and it's the kids that are doing it, right, coming in. And,
yeah.
It's a scary thing. It's scary to even, like, just when we go to orientations now, part of orientations in school is, going over what their safety protocol is,
yes.
and their lockdown protocol, and knowing that she's going through those drills of...
It's the norm now. I have another good friend of mine. I did a podcast with her. She's a school resource officer. And, she's a police officer, but then she's based in the school system. And she says they do active shooter training for them. That's like the norm. And they do it regularly. And it's like just a thought that they have to be put in this position. But I guess that's with anything in life. You just, if there's the threat of something, then, it's better to educate. But it's very troubling to me that especially certain politicians, and again, to me, it's not about, left or right or whatever, but it's more just common sense. On the one hand, they're talking about, pro-life and saving kids, but what about doing what's necessary for school kids to be safe in school? It's very selective.
It's scary. Scary as a parent. It's scary and I'll go even, just talking about that whole topic and just gun control and all that, but like as a single mom, things, a lot of people are like, oh, you should carry something. And I definitely don't want to.
No.
But I understand what they're meaning.
What? Yes.
Because everybody else, like, somebody's going to come at you, it's like, and of course, we know our martial arts training and all that. Like, that's just what we're ready for.
Yeah.
Like, but it's still not something I want to do.
Yeah. And you know what? Follow your gut, because I'm the same way. I'm, a spiritualist. So it's like, I look at things from that respect. But at the same time, it's like, it's just weapons or guns and certain calibers of guns are infused. It's a more chance for somebody that shouldn't have it to have it, So all you can do is just do the best you can do to stay safe and pray or whatever else. But I think it's shameful that they care more about whatever it is that the payoff is. And it's just common sense.
We also see it like working in other countries too, right? So like we do see that other countries who don't have open gun laws and open carry and all that stuff are still able to manage and thrive
and do well. I'm waiting for the pendulum to swing where common sense and decency will be the order of the day, So, wow. Michelle, thank you so much. I'm really happy you were able to spend some time talking to me today. Take care.
Thank you for having me.
Bye. Thanks.
Bye-bye.
If you haven't already done so, please like and subscribe to hear upcoming podcasts. And please share with family and friends. Thanks for listening.